Maori warriors were some of the fiercest warriors the world has ever known. Their bravery and savageness are legendary. Throughout their history, war was a part of Maori life. Conflicts over land and insults of any type were the main catalyst for war. As Europeans began to settle New Zealand, wars broke out against them. War among the Maori became an endless cycle. Upon defeat, the losing side would feel obligated to restore its pride. Welcome. The war party, the Maori fighting unit, was called a hapu. A hapu rarely consisted of more than a few hundred warriors, often numbering less than 100. Most of the warriors were men, but women were also known to fight. Often several hapu joined forces in battle. When more than one hapu did join forces, they would not coordinate the battle together, each would basically do as its chief dictated. This lack of coordination hurt their effort and could lead to defeat by a smaller war party. The warriors were usually led by a chief. The chief's main job was to motivate his warriors to move forward. The chief was a huge motivational force, and if he were killed or wounded, the warriors would usually retreat, even if on the verge of victory. Warriors would usually travel to the battle by foot, and usually in single file due to the narrow paths they traveled. Sometimes they would travel in large canoes to get to a battle. War preparation. The Maori were trained to be warriors from an early age. They used sticks to practice spear thrust and padded weapons to train for combat. They learned to wrestle, box, throw rocks, and run. Before going into battle, the Maori warriors would prepare themselves in several ways. This usually included abstinence of certain foods and practices and the performance of a war dance called a haka. During this dance, the Maori would wave weapons, stick out their tongues, bulge out their eyes, wave weapons, and grunt. This dance was very important. The tribal elders would watch it, and if the haka was not performed correctly, it could be considered a bad omen for the upcoming battle. The Maori warriors' strategy. The main strategy employed by the Maori was ambush or surprise attacks. They would quietly work their way close to the enemy and then launch a quick and deadly attack. Dawn was the favorite time to attack because the night helped the warriors approach undetected. So important was the eliminate of surprise that if it was discovered that the enemy was aware of their approach, the warriors would often postpone the attack. They also used other surprise attack techniques. For example, the warriors might pretend to be on a hunting or gathering trip and work their way close to the targeted village. When close enough, they would spring their attack on the unexpecting adversary. They were also known to attack other tribes that had been invited as guests or that were hosting a ceremony. Upon victory, and in fear of revenge, the victorious tribe would usually kill all the enemy warriors, who were not lucky enough to have escaped. Taiaha. One of the most well-known weapons of the Maori due to its use during welcoming ceremonies, known as pauhiri. A long club typically about 5 to 6 feet 5 to 1.8 meters in length. This weapon, usually made of whalebone or wood, was used for short, quick stabbing thrusts and for defense, to parry thrust from an enemy's weapon. Although it looks like a spear, it was never used for throwing at an enemy. Wahika. This weapon was a short club used in hand-to-hand combat. It was usually made of whalebone or wood. The warrior would thrust the weapon at the enemy. A notch on the side was used for catching an opponent's weapon. With a quick flick and twist of the wrist, the opponent could be disarmed. The word wahika can be roughly translated to the mouth of the fit. A mir is a short flat club shaped like a large teardrop. It is the same design as a patu, but the difference is patus are made of wood, stone, or whalebone, whereas mirs are made of greenstone, jade. This weapon was held in one hand and was used in close hand-to-hand combat. Typical strike zones for warriors included the temple, the jaw, or the ribs. The mir was a highly prized weapon as it requires an incredible amount of work to make. They were often passed on from one generation to the next. Warriors who carried a greenstone mir were considered to possess great strength and honor. Patu. This weapon is a short club used as a striking weapon. The English translation of patu is to strike or hit. Patu were made of wood, stone, or whalebone. The general strategy of using this weapon was to hit the opponent's upper body, thus disabling them and then finishing them off with a strike to the head. Koshi 8. This short club was a thrusting weapon used in close hand-to-hand combat. It was usually made of whalebone or wood. Its name means to cut or divide the liver, most likely named for its resemblance to the lobe part of a human liver. Maori chiefs often held this weapon while giving speeches. Thanks for watching.